that.
Now we're on.
You're on, and then record.
You ready?
I need a pen, but yes, I'm ready.
You ready?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so let's call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order on May 16th, 2018. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien. Present. Alderman at Large Shoshana Kelly is here. Alderman Michael Laws, Brandon Michael Laws, sorry.
Either way.
Thank you. Alderman Clee.
Here.
Alderman Karen. Here. And Alderman Gathright. We have all committee members present.
All right. First item is public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to the committee? I don't see anyone. Communications. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Mayor Jim Donchis regarding emergency PO requests, emergency contract with Crisp Contracting LLC for $13,000 to perform sewer repairs. There being no objection, shall we accept that communication and place it on file?
Is that a motion?
It is a motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly.
A little closer. Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding Kale America Pay Station contract with a value of $53,980. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and contingent upon Board of Alderman approval, award the 3-year contract to Kale America, Inc. in the amount of $53,980. Funds are available in Department 166, Parking Operations General Fund.
Any discussion, questions? Ms., any discussion or questions? Jill Stansfield is here if you have any questions, but I don't see any. If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And motion carries. Contract is approved. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding ASAP fire alarm inspection contract with a value of $2,400. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and contingent upon Board of Alderman approval, award the 2-year contract to ASAP Alarm and Electric in the amount of $2,400. Source of funding is Department 166, Parking Operations General Fund.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding the contract for fundraising assessment. The value is $25,000. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Full Circle Consulting in the amount of $25,000. Funds are available in Department 183, Economic Development, PAC Feasibility Study.
And Mr. Cummings is here, Economic Development Director, if you have any questions. Any discussion, any questions from any members of the committee? Alderwoman Karen.
Yes, thank you. Can you explain what this $25,000 is going to go for? I did go through it quickly, but give us some feedback on this study, please.
Yes. So again, for the record, my name is Tim Cummings. I'm the Director of Economic Development for the city. Under my office's purview, we're charged with executing on the Performing Arts Center project. And contingent on the construction of the Performing Arts Center, we have to capitalize an endowment fund of $4 million. This is the first step in trying to move that aspect of the project forward, where we'll be looking to do essentially a feasibility study and assessment on how much money we can raise from direct private contributions. This is a standard practice in capital campaign type of efforts, We went out and did an RFP to 18 vendors, all within the Northeast. We received 0 submissions officially. However, one of the vendors that we did submit an RFP to happened to come back to us and respond once we had a conversation. That is Betsy McNamara of Full Circle Consulting. We had a good conversation, and she ultimately recommended we do a phased approach where we do the assessment, and then we enter into a second phase type of contract where there would be the execution of the campaign, and that wouldn't come until later on this summer. The funds are available through Downtown Improvement Committee. It was recommended by the committee at their previous meeting, and I'm here before you to get endorsement of this contract so we can move forward. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So this is the money that the downtown committee approved for you to do this?
Correct.
Okay, I was just, because I couldn't see it, and I didn't want to ask you the other day. So, but I appreciate this. Do we have any idea if the private sector has collected any money towards this $4 million?
I can answer that question, Mr. Chair, if I may.
You go ahead.
Yes, I actually spoke to Lisa Bissonette earlier today. She's the president of City Arts Nashua. Earlier this year, they had a fundraising event where a portion of those proceeds are being dedicated to this expenditure.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Alderman O'Brien?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Cummings, as you've been aware, there's been a lot of questions by some people in the public. A couple of people have come up and everything. So this should particularly answer those particular questions. We're going to have a company that's going to come in, designate, and get the funds and put it in the right account. And like you say, it's something that has been done in other communities that has this type of goal. So it's basically should clear up a lot of questions that came from the general public on this, correct?
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yes, of course.
Yes, and in particular, the consultant we're going with has extensive experience here in Nashua and also for fundraising in general, and particularly with theaters. I have her biography here. I can pass it around to the committee if you'd like. Essentially, she did the capital campaign for the YMCA here in Greater Nashua, working with Mike LaChance, and she also helped do the brand new Nashua Soup Kitchen and Shelter. So that is very specific to Nashua. She was the campaign consultant for the fundraising initiative for Red River Theater up in Concord. So she has a wealth of experience in this subject matter, and we're pretty excited.
Anything else? Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things with this type of a plan is that she's not necessarily the one that's going to be doing the fundraising. She's going to be kind of consulting, working with the people, private and public, to get the funds and she's just going to help us through the process, correct?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, that is absolutely correct. She, being Ms. McNamara, has to adhere to a code of conduct and ethics for her profession. She's prohibited from making, quote unquote, the direct ask. Her role will be administrative and organizational in nature to help us move the project forward.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any discussion, questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding a contract for tax credit consultant with a value of $63,450. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and contingent upon Board of Aldermen approval, award the 2-year contract to William C. Cannon, Finance and Development Consultant, in the amount of $63,450. Source of funding is Department 183, Economic Development, PAC feasibility study.
Any discussion, questions? Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes, thank you. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about this and what they're going to be doing that's different from the first one. I was a little bit confused and I read through it as well.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, again, for the record, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development. This is essentially, if you wanted to look at it from an organizational standpoint, would be a strategy that we could use to execute in raising of the $4 million or bringing additional non-public, non-city money to the project. So we have a fundraising consultant, and she will make recommendations and strategies, which will include looking at grants, foundations, tax credits, direct private sector investment, marketing opportunities with sponsorships and naming rights, and then a subset of that. And we've said from the beginning, because of where this building is and because of the nature of downtown redevelopment, there's a particularly unique opportunity for us to pursue a new market tax credit. We know that this project qualifies for it. We've had that conversation well in advance before we even moved forward. So wanting to get a jump on the gun, I put an RFP out. We solicited proposals from 3 different vendors from all across the country, one based in California, another based in Boston, Massachusetts, and then this local vendor who's based out of what is essentially Manchester and who has done extensive work in new market tax credit financing, which is just another type of financing to help close a gap in a private sector project. So what you have before you is a proposal by Neil Cannon, who has done most of the work up in Concord for new market tax credits. He's looking to pursue a new market tax credit on our behalf for 201 Main Street. We've had very positive conversations leading up to this.
So the new market tax credit, it's a very technical area, and this gentleman knows this area very well and has qualified many different projects for a new market tax credit. So that's the point of this, focusing on that source. Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you. I'm trying to see how to I word this. Do we have any idea as to how much any of these would be? Any of these new market tax credits would be?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Yes, I have an idea, though I don't want to be held to it. I can tell you that the new tax law that was just passed by Congress has thrown a little bit of curveball into the tax credit market in general.
Yes, I know.
So taking that one issue and setting it to aside, up until this past winter, this type of tax credit received on statutorily, you get up to a 39% reimbursement. Of that, what you see is approximately 20 to 30%, so call it 25% once you see all the fees and other costs taken away. So essentially what you could see is approximately 25% of a $15.5 million project.
Okay.
How much actual money that translates into depends on the market. Right now, I'm being told, and this is what Neil Cannon specializes in, is really how much on the cents per dollar you actually receive, and it's somewhere between 85 and 90 cents.
Okay.
And it's trending a little lower because of what happened this past winter.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderwoman Karen.
Yes, thank you. And I'm assuming this amount of money is also coming from the downtown committee? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? And the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding network storage upgrade with a value of $34,697. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract to She International Corp. in the amount of $34,697. Funds are available in Department 122, Information Technology, General Fund.
And Mr. Cattignon is here. If you have any questions of IT. Maybe he should come up just so you, I don't know how many, have you met him before? I don't know. This is Bruce Cattignon, the IT director of the city. Any discussion, questions on this item? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding IMC replacement of fire with a value of $151,106. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Alpine Software Corporation in the amount of $151,106. Source of funding is Department 122, Information Technology, NGIN Bond Fund.
Discussion, questions? Alderman O'Brien.
Yes, I would just like to say, Mr. Mayor, I kind of poured over this and looked at it, and this is a very needed upgrade, I think, that would enhance the operation of our fire department in the city. It'll give them a whole bunch of things as far as their medical reporting, computer-aided dispatching, also can make decisions upon the closest apparatus to a particular emergency situation. In the past, I know they have tried to take something from somewhere else and apply it to here. This is well-intentioned for the fire service. It's what they should have had in the beginning, and I think it's about high time. I've definitely got to support it. This is probably what we'll vote for tonight may save some lives. It's that critical.
Now, Assistant Chief Walker from the Fire Department is here. Are you here on this particular item? So he's available for questions if you have any questions for him as well. Any discussion, any questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding fiber optic cable test tool with a value of $20,933. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Alpine Software Corporation in the amount of $20,933. Funds are available in Department 122, Information Technology, NGIN Bond Fund.
Discussion, questions?
What is this?
Alderman Laws.
I'll tell you whatever, you know.
You get
Go
the
ahead,
lot.
Michael.
Call me whatever you want. So what is what is this? Fiber optics testing tool?
Bruce Cognon for the record. It is a fiber optic test tool. So typically we hire contractors whenever we have a breakage in fiber optic cable. We have 45 miles of fiber connecting all the city buildings, as well as all the traffic lights throughout the city, as well as redundant backup for the radio towers for the emergency response. So, and then we have within the buildings and the parking garages, we have fiber optic cables. So it's probably more like 90 miles of cable when you really look at it. Every time there's, a mouse or a squirrel or something breaks in the cable, we usually have to hire a vendor to come in, figure out where that break is, hire someone else to come out and repair the break. It takes a lot of time, and it's also very expensive. So it's kind of long overdue to have our own tester. People on my team know how to use it. So it helps us to be able to determine where a break is, how good a fiber optic line actually is, and make any necessary changes or adjustments we have to do.
Yes,
How
Alderman
often
Laws.
do you anticipate using this?
It seems like we get breaks like once a month.
Okay.
Especially on the traffic poles and the traffic cabinets. There's always a squirrel that wants to live in there and decides that this is food. So we have breaks a lot of times, and plus we have people that on the traffic cabinets go off the road, they hit them. But we also have within buildings where someone's working, they drill a hole through the wall and actually hit a cable. It's hard to find those.
Yeah. Thank you.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you. So would this tool allow you to take everything in-house or just the diagnostic of
Just the
knowing?
diagnostics.
Okay, and currently, if I could follow up, how often are you paying for someone else to do that diagnostic?
Pretty much like once a month.
Okay, and
You know, and
cost?
also some of the repairs we can do ourselves because these fiber optic cables are multiple strands of fiber optics. So a lot of times we can just change, shift to another pair if we do find a break. So a lot of the repairs can be done by my team, depends upon what type of break it is.
Just a follow-up of, do you know about how much it costs every time you send a consultant out to look at the fiber optic?
It varies. Sometimes it's, $10,000, $5,000, $2,000. It varies.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Oh, Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you. My question would be, Mr. Mayor, would this equipment be shared with other divisions? I know in particular, like, we just did something with the fire department. I know that they have the fiber optic school department and everything else like that. So they'll be able to use this to help them on their end of it as well, too? Or do you just manage the whole complete system?
No, we'd share it with any other division that needs to use it.
Very good.
But we already do it, within the fire department and such, and we help out within the school department as well.
Okay.
So, we work very closely with everybody, so we have no issues. We share well.
Very good, like when you play together well.
Play together.
Anything else?
That's fine, thank you.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding Lawson Consulting Services from Surety Systems with a value of $15,000. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase from Surety Systems and the amount of $15,000. Source of funding is Department 111, Human Resources, General Fund.
And Mr. Budrow, who's the Director of Personnel, is here to answer any questions if you have them. Are there any questions or any discussion? Alderwoman Clee.
Yes, I guess I was a little confused between this one and the next one that's
You
coming
want to
up.
come on up, Mr. Budrow?
Hi. My question is, is this just to aid in processing the current contract changes that have recently come down? Is it just for temporary help? I was a little confused by the request, so I apologize.
Oh, that's fine. I'm Larry Budrow, the Human Resources Director. This is I have two. This is the Lawson Consulting first, I believe.
Yeah. This is for the 15,000, right, exactly.
Never miss an opportunity, especially for new aldermen that I haven't met, to reinforce that the city and the school district combined
Right.
have a very complicated payroll and benefits administration system. 17 union contracts, 3 non-union agreements, all sorts of different nuances. Lawson, the software that we use for the financials in the city and for processing payroll and benefits administration, needs to be constantly configured, reconfigured, and repaired. A couple of problems that we are suffering right now and have for years is that there's a phenomenon called comp time, and that some hourly employees can choose not to be paid, but store that time and in a future time be able to take time and a half, an hour and a half for every hour they worked overtime. We should have a flawless record-keeping system for that. We don't. Many times they've tried to fix it and it breaks. So this Lawson consultant currently is helping us with that. So it's fixes. It's helping us to configure for new things that are come down the pike. By way of contrast, and another interesting thing that some of you don't know because we haven't met, the entire Human Resources and Payroll Department comprised of 10 and a half people. Of that group, I'm the most senior. I've been here less than 3 years. So we have an enormous learning curve and a broken system. In fiscal 2017, we spent $180,000
Sorry.
We spent $180,000 on similar consulting, so we've made enormous strides. What we're doing here is encumbering this so that we can continue on some of the projects we have and know that we have money as issues or new challenges come up.
So if I may,
Yes.
so this is really kind of a one and done type of a fix, or are we going to once a year need them to come in and make these as contracts as things change? I worked in a payroll with the Department of Veterans Affairs, so I understand all the different pay scales and all the different types of wage grade versus a GS. I worked for the federal government, so I can understand that. But and comp time is a nightmare, I guess.
So the response is the latter. We will not necessarily, we're not going to spend all that money in one shot, and I can't say for sure that we will spend it all in the upcoming year.
Okay.
But we certainly may. We have current projects going on, and with the fiscal year coming to a close, we want to make sure that we secure the permission to acquire that consulting when we need it.
Okay, sounds good to me. Thank you.
Any other questions? Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may, to Mr. Boudreau, I can appreciate the dilemma. Like you said, we have several unions under contract, non-contract, and everything else. So is this going to be the buildable system, and is it just going to fix what we have now, but through negotiations, we go every 2 to 3 years, depending upon the union when they come before us. So this would be a system that would be able to be built on in the future, that we can adjust as we make contractual changes?
It's been the system in use for payroll since January 1st, 2013, and it's going to have a finite lifespan. Mr. Cottington, Mr. Griffin, and I have formed an informal team and have begun to take a look at future options for payroll and human resources software. I think this will be usable for several more years. The new version was upgraded last year. So we need to be looking to the medium to long-term future, 4 to 7 years, probably something has to happen. In the meantime, we need this assistance to get through that period of time.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you all. Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding Lawson and Kronos Consulting Services with a value of $26,847. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase from Accountemp's salaried professional service in the amount of $26,847. Funds are available in Department 111, Human Resources General Fund.
You want to give a brief explanation of this one,
Certainly.
Mr. Boudreau?
So through this staffing company, we've been using the services of a person who has some significant payroll experience in a combined Lawson and Kronos environment, which is what we have. And if I could draw an analogy, the one that we just approved is for like a mechanic, someone who can come in and help us diagnose and fix problems that we just don't know how to use. This is for someone who can come in and continue teaching us to learn how to use our equipment well. So Kronos, for example, is the timekeeping system. We know that it's tremendously underutilized. We don't have the skills. We have no one on board who has the ability to help us. So this is also intermittent consulting as needed, but more of a process improvement perspective rather than the deep dives that the first one's doing.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Motion
you.
carries. Thank you, Mr. Boudreau. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding construction phase engineering services for new canal pedestrian bridge project with a value of $83,592. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Hull Tanner and Associates in the amount of $83,592. Source of funding is Department 81 Community Development New Hampshire .TAP grant.
Now, Sarah Marchant, Community Development Director, is here to explain this and answer any questions. Maybe I'm not sure if we brought this before the committee. This project has been in the works for a while. So would you mind explaining the need for this contract?
Sure. So Sarah Marchant, Community Development Director. Hoyle Tanner and Associates has been our design engineer for the project. This is the connection between the Heritage Rail Trail that goes behind City Hall here, down Everett Street, across Ledge to put a new pedestrian bridge into Mind Falls Park to connect some of our most dense inner city neighborhoods with Mind Falls Park. We've finally made it through a full engineering public process. We have all the permits lined up and all the approvals. And this is an NHDOT grant-funded project, which requires we follow a specific an LPA local program administrator process. And with this process, we have to have construction engineering monitoring. So this contract is for Hoyle Tanner, who is our design engineers, to continue as our construction engineers. We followed an original QBS qualified base services bid process with the initial contract, and that's why HTA was selected for their overall experience, quality of work, and price. And so this comes through that process and it follows that. The LPA process is bid. So we don't have 3 bids. That's why it's part of the QBS LPA process. And it's here for your approval tonight.
Questions? Alderwoman Clee?
Just a quick question. This is 100% grant and so on, right? This is that
Not
TAP grant?
100%
Okay.
grant, but yes, it's 80% grant, 20% city funding, but all the
Okay.
money was put aside quite a while.
Already put aside for it. Okay, thank you.
I will say we don't have the construction contract finalized yet, and so this wouldn't be signed unless we do, but we are working on that.
Thank you.
Alderman O'Brien?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Marchand, may I ask a question about the bridge itself? You know, when we open up an area, which I think we should, this will be a great recreational asset to the people in the neighborhood and all citizens that would choose to use it. But when you open up something like this to the community, accidents can happen. Can you just briefly tell us, is the bridge, would it be capable not to handle a fire truck, but a light vehicle or police cruiser to make sure that the area in question where the public has access, similar to what's in Mines Fall Park bridges?
Yes, absolutely. Excellent question. This bridge it's actually a non-motorized transportation grant. So it is intended for pedestrians and bicycles, but it will have the ability to take service vehicles if Parks and Rec needs to drive certain vehicles over to do work in Mind Falls Park. So it'll have a bollard to prevent everybody from driving over it, but will allow fire emergency services. Yeah, not a big fire truck, but basic vehicles will be able to traverse it.
Very good.
Alderwoman Clee?
Thank you. I just have one more question. Does this really connects the Mines Falls to the trail, like you said, that comes in behind here, and then hope to someday continue all the way up to Crown Hill and so on? This kind of makes that full connection from Mines Fall all the way through?
Absolutely right, yes.
This
And
is
we were
wonderful.
here last
Thank
night
you.
for this next half, the new grant we got to do the next half, so,
Thank you.
yeah.
Alderwoman Harriet Gathright?
Do you have any idea when you think this might start?
I would love to tell you that. I need the construction contract, which I'll be back before you with, hopefully in not too long to tell you that. At this point, we will be, construction would be later this summer with the goal to have it finished before the freeze thaw this year. It ultimately depends on the construction contract at this point.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly?
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding engineering services for improvements to the Greeley Park boat ramp with a value of $79,984. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Santec Consulting Services, Inc. in the amount of $79,984. Funds are available in Department 181, Community Development, Land and Water Conservation Grant Fund.
Ms. Marchand, you want to explain this one?
Sure. This is another grant project that has largely been led by Madeline Minogue, the Waterways Manager, in partnership with the Board of Public Works, Parks and Recreation, and also the Fire Department. This was something that was on hold for a long time because of the railroad crossing. Madeline, with Corporation Counsel Bolton, got a determination from NHDOT that the railroad crossing is public, and so that we can upgrade this boat ramp. And because of that, we were eligible for grant funding, which is paying for a large part of this, half of the project. So this is to upgrade the access road and boat ramp at Greeley Park, which is our only emergency access to the Merrimack River in the city. And so this is for the engineering, for permitting and design of that project. Trying to keep costs down and keep as many dollars as we can for the actual construction, and especially the access road. It is circuitous at this point. It is kind of a windabout road, and one of the big priorities for fire and emergency services is to make it much more direct. We also think that will have the benefit of reducing the amount of dumping and maybe behavior we would not like to see down there. And so we're trying to save as much of that. DPW has stepped up, and they're going to partner with Stantec and kind of do some of the parts of this to reduce costs overall. And so we do recommend Stantec at this time for the engineering bid.
Alderwoman Karen.
Yes. This is so wonderful. We're finally getting somewhere with this because this is a long time coming, and there is a lot of use there, some good and some bad, but I am so happy to see this moving forward finally, so I'm in support of this wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Alderwoman Clee.
I'm very much in support of this too. I'm one of those people that live close to that area. It's in my ward, and I do have a tendency to go for walks there. And you're right, it's a long, winding road that brings you in and out through everything. I'd like to see that direct road and the boat ramp kind of fixed up there. So thank you.
Alderman O'Brien.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with the two former speakers, my fellow aldermen on this. It's about high time. A little brief history. I was in charge of the dive team when I was on the fire department. It was horrendous trying to get in and out and everything. So, which leads me to come up is parking, because when we grant access to a boat ramp, we want people to enjoy it recreationally. They're going to come with a car and a trailer to portage their boats in and everything. So we're taking all that into account, and I'm excited about the new access that may be in the future there. So that's
Yeah,
the big key.
sorry. Yes, great question. We are definitely taking into consideration boat and trailer parking as well as regular car parking, since so many people do use it to walk their dogs as well. And so that is included. We, in speaking with the neighborhood, it's very important to them that we keep this as natural as possible. And so we'll be trying to find that balance. We're working with Fish and Game on trying to right size the parking area and the launch to also trying to keep it as natural as possible. So, and DPW did the one at Mine Falls Park not too long ago, and are a great resource as part of this team as well.
Beautiful.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. That's it for you, right?
We have
anything
that
else?
last minute one,
Oh, you want to,
if possible, please.
you've got the one that came in after the agenda?
Yes.
All right, since Ms. Marchand is here and is already, maybe we should, would someone move to suspend the rules to accept the communication from City Clerk Pietsu regarding, no wait, I'm not looking at the right one. Excuse me, from me regarding, no, it's not that one either. Which
It's,
one is the,
River Fountain Electrical.
oh, yes, right, all
Fagiano.
right.
Yeah.
Have you got it in front of you?
Yep, I can move to suspend the rules and allow for the introduction of the communication.
Okay. Go ahead, please do that. You have moved it, okay. Could you describe the communication, though, so we know what we're talking about? Have you got it in front of you?
I do. Would you like me to read it, or do we need
Yes.
to vote on moving to
All right,
accept
well,
it?
let's move to, let's vote on the suspension of the rules. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. So we have before us the communication which came in after the agenda was prepared. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding Riverwalk electric work for fountains and lighting with a value of $11,250. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase from Johnson Electric in the amount of $11,250. Source of funding is Department 181, Community Development Escrow.
Discussion, questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Now, Public Health and Community Services Director Bagley, as well as Welfare Director Mack, are here to speak on the next several items. So maybe you should both come up, speak, or answer any questions at least. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding Memorandum of Understanding with Revive Recovery for Peer Recovery Support Supervision. The value is $0. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and authorize the city to enter into the Memorandum of Understanding with Revive Recovery for Peer Recovery Support Supervision.
Questions, discussion? Alderwoman Karen.
Could Director Bagley give us a brief overview as to exactly what this person is going to do, if you don't mind, Mayor?
I don't mind at all.
Thank
That would
you.
be very helpful.
Good evening. Thank you. Bobby Bagley, Director of the Division of Public Health and Community Services. This memorandum of understanding is to allow for Al Metkowski, who is our licensed alcohol and drug counselor, to work with Revive Recovery to provide peer support services with volunteers that will be working with the city in response to the opioid crisis. So as you're aware, over the past 2 years, we've seen a significant increase in overdoses and deaths as a result of the opioid crisis or substance use disorder. And as a collaborative effort in our response, we've been able to train a number of individuals to act as peer recovery coaches. And so these are individuals that may have experienced themselves with substance use disorder, but are in recovery, but because they understand the complexity of recovery, they are ideal to work with individuals and provide a warm touch or support individuals as they make it through their recovery course or journey. And they need support themselves because they're working with individuals that may end up in situations that could be complex but also could trigger their possible response to a particular situation. And so Al Metkowski, who's a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, will provide support for those individuals so that they will meet with him to talk about the individuals that they may be working with to make sure that they're safe and that they're handling situations appropriately. There's no funding that's required from the city other than what we're already paying Al Metkowski, who works under the division to do substance use disorder counseling with individuals, and will work with these recovery coaches in that likewise. And these volunteers actually will be working with Revive Recovery as well, so we'll get people connected to that resource, and he will meet with individuals there to provide these support services in group sessions.
Follow-up, thank you.
Alderwoman Karen.
So our staff person is going to work with the people who are working as part of the other project that we just approved, Revive Recovery? Is
Well, I
that
think
what
it's an
my?
expansion of the project. So what we are funding Jessica Parnell, who's working full-time as a recovery coach. But there are also volunteers who are willing to undertake volunteer services, you know,
Mhm.
when they're available basis. And so Al, who's been working for the city for on and off for decades, really, right?
Yeah, 20 years.
He's part-time, but he is very knowledgeable. He's a degreed, licensed recovery professional, licensed alcohol and drug counselor. He's going to help educate these volunteers as to what they need to know in terms of performing the services of a recovery coach on a volunteer basis. Is that accurate?
Yes, Mayor.
And Al is, he's like a saint, really. I mean, he's out there all the time, working with people who need help. Yes, Alderwoman
Okay,
Karen.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That kind of gives a full,
Yeah.
overview, and knowing that someone who has that degree and knowledge is able to help those people who are trying to help others as well. So,
We need to expand this network
Absolutely.
because, a recovery coach can work with a certain number of people, but it's fairly intensive. So you need a lot of people involved to cover the hundreds of people who are really probably in need of the service.
right. I appreciate the explanation.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding independent contract agreement with Harbor Homes, Inc., with a value of $1,008,703. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and contingent upon Board of Aldermen approval, award the three-year contract to Harbor Homes, Inc. in the amount of $1,008,703. Funds are available in Department 171, Community Services, Hopwa Grant.
Now, I think Melbourne, are you here in this as well? What? What? Oh, okay. All right. Why don't Director Bagley go ahead and give the committee an explanation on this one?
So, Mayor, I'm actually going to have Bob Mack talk about the Hopwa
Okay,
program, if
Fine.
you don't mind.
that's fine. Go ahead, Mr. Mack.
Bob Mack, Welfare Officer for the city. I'm here to speak about the Hopwa contract agreements. As was noted, this is a 3-year grant cycle. It's basically a pass-through grant that we get through Housing and Urban Development, Hopwa Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS. This is about the 4th or 5th cycle where we've received this grant funding and have been contracting with Harbor Homes to provide tenant-based rental assistance for about 35 households, which has at least one member who's identified HIV or AIDS. And they make sure that these folks have safe, secure housing that's affordable, and which is a key piece of public health and their health and well-being in the community.
Okay, any questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding an independent contract with Southern New Hampshire HIV/AIDS Task Force with a value of $382,297. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and contingent upon Board of Aldermen approval, award the 3-year contract to Southern New Hampshire HIV/AIDS Task Force in the amount of $382,297. Source of funding is Department 171, Community Services, Hopwa Grant.
And who is going to discuss this one?
Bob Mack.
Mr. Mack.
Hi,
You're on
Bob
again.
Mack, Welfare Officer. Thank you. This is basically the second piece of this Hopwa grant, this 3-year grant cycle where we contract with Southern New Hampshire HIV and AIDS Task Force to provide case management and supportive services for those clients that are living in the housing units that are managed by Harbor Homes. So they basically provide the support services as noted, making sure clients get to medical appointments and other support services that may be available in the community.
Questions? Comments?
I have one.
Alderwoman Kelly.
I was gonna ask this in the last one, but I just wanted to make sure I completely understand. So the city gets the HOPWA grant and then they pass it off, so it's a direct pass-through. There's no cost to us.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I think that's all you have, right?
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding BSP Fairmont Street Bridge fence with a value of $98,868. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract to DeLuca Fence Company, Inc. in the amount of $98,868. Funds are available in Department 160, Administration Engineering, Broad Street Parkway.
Discussion? Alderman O'Brien.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Coogan, was this damage done in an accident or something?
No, I don't believe so.
No, so this is a new construction item?
Yes.
There's a little more background. So you might recall that there is a dispute with E.D. Sweat, a legal dispute.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
And it had to do with the drilling of the holes that would hold the piers for the bridge. Part of E.D. Sweat's contract was to do this fencing. So this dispute arose. The city is holding around $1 million of money as a result of this dispute with E.D. Sweat. So I think E.D. Sweat did not execute this part of the contract, and they were, and DeLuca was their sub. So in the absence of performance by E.D. Sweat as a result of the disagreement, the city is now going around them and contracting directly with the fence provider to put the fence in that, is way, way overdue at this point, and that's what this contract is.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for jogging my memory. Now I know exactly what you were saying, yeah.
Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding Main Street Bridge and Guardrail section of Water Street painting project with a value of $57,500. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Target of New England in the amount of $57,500. Source of funding is Department 160, Administration Engineering, FY18 Highway Block Grant.
Alderwoman Clee.
I just have one quick question on this. When I was reading through this, we have the two vendors that I assume put in a bid, is that correct?
Yes.
There's a significant difference between their two. Did one have a much larger scale?
No, they were both asked to quote on the same exact place, both sides of the bridge,
Okay,
and then the side rail going down the other street.
okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding Bridge Evaluation Engineering Study, agreement with Town of Hudson, with a value not to exceed $25,000. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and approve the agreement to reimburse the Town of Hudson in the amount not to exceed $25,000. Funds are available in Department 161, Streets, Bridge Rehabilitation Capital Improvement Fund.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding purchase of one 2018 Morbark M15R wood chipper with a value of $71,302. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase from Northrack in the amount of $71,302. Source of funding is Department 160, Engineering Highway Block Grant.
Discussion? Alderman Laws.
There's no one here to.
No, but I could probably answer the question.
Do they already have a wood chipper? Is this?
They do, but it's in bad shape, and it doesn't do a very good job. The memos, I forget, it goes back to
86.
86, so it's 32 years old.
It
And a 32-year-old wood chipper is not that good.
says it right here.
Got over the 1,000 miles.
I'm trying to find the page.
I would imagine, Mr. Mayor, it'd be dangerous too. Yes.
Yeah, my dad works on trees.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding purchase of 4 CMC T333 electronic message boards with a value of $91,099. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase from American Signal Company in the amount of $91,099. Source of funding is Department 160 Engineering Highway Block Grant.
Discussion? Alderwoman Clee.
I just have a really quick question. These are safety type of message boards that will say if there's issues with the roads and so on. I did read that they're north, east, south, and west, kind of putting them there. Do we know specifically where?
Well, these are mobile, so they
Okay,
won't
so they can be
go-
moved.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
But the idea is they would be located in different places.
Right.
But could be moved, different areas, but could be moved.
Okay, thank you.
They can also do, I think, radar speed detection, so you could use it to kind of try to warn people to slow down.
That's
We
nice.
could use probably not 4, but 400 of those.
Yeah.
Every street in the city. Slow down.
My constituents will be calling.
Maybe 300 there's 1,200 streets in the city, something like that. Anyway, any other discussion? Yes, Alderwoman Kelly.
So is this going to bring us up to 8, or is this to replace the 4 that we have?
To replace the 4 that we have. 2 of them are out of service, and the others don't. The new ones will work much better because they can be communicated with via GPS and remotely. So they're going to be far more functional than the ones that we have now. Alderman Laws.
Is it a safe assumption that we could use these for multiple purposes and like put messages about things that are happening downtown and,
Yes,
you know, so we can get much more value out of these than the ones that we currently have?
yes. And they're much more, they require less labor because they can be communicated with remotely. So their message, I think, can be changed, from headquarters, so to speak. Alderwoman Clee.
Did I read correctly something about it could be done from a cell phone? Or
Yeah.
So that means just quickly on the fly. No one has to go there, program it, put a computer into it. That's good.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding landfill gas collection and control system expansion with a value of $427,654. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract to SCS Field Services in the amount of $424,654. Funds are available in Department 168 Solid Waste Landfill Gas Expansion Bond.
Discussion, questions? Alderwoman Kelly.
Are you able to give a brief synopsis of what this is and if it's something that we've been planning for since we do have this bond?
Yes. So we have a gas collection system out at the landfill. There's a long history here, but this is the system collects methane gas. It's required by the permit that we get from DES to operate the landfill, and the expansion is required, so this is a required step. What this system does is it collects methane and then burns the methane into and creates some electricity with it. And it also has the effect of mitigating the odors that would otherwise emanate from the landfill. And years ago, there was a lot of problems with that. There was, a few years back, a big dispute with the previous vendor and who refused to take necessary steps. There was litigation, there was a settlement. This new vendor was brought in. The old vendor was compensated by the new vendor. And so they've been in place, they've done a good job, and they are running the system, or they are expanding the system. That there's, the day-to-day stuff is done by Public Works, but they oversee the system and execute the expansion. The wells and the like are monitored by Public Works. There are many, if you go out there, there's a lot of different wells all around the landfill especially where the landfill is closed and there's a lot of garbage underneath and a lot of methane is produced. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding 2018 SIP lining with a value of $715,658. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Laney Inliner in the amount of $715,658. Source of funding is Department 169 wastewater sewer rehab bond.
Discussion? Questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding 2018 paving program castings with a value of $159,686. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract to E.J. Prescott, Inc. in the amount of $159,686. Funds are available in Department 169 wastewater sewer structures.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding energy recovery upgrades generator procurement with a value of $701,840. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase from Southworth Milton, Inc. in the amount of $701,840. Source of funding is Department 169 wastewater wharf.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderwoman Kelly.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding water booster station upgrades. Design Phase Services Amendment 2, value of $8,200. Mr. Mayor, I move to accept, place on file, and approve Amendment Number 2 to the contract with Woodward and Curran in the amount of $8,200. Funds are available in Department 161 Wastewater State Revolving Loan Fund.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Unfinished business, none. New business, none. Record of expenditures. Is there a motion on the record of expenditures?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the Finance Committee has complied with the city charter and ordinances pertaining to the record of expenditures for the periods April 13th, 2018 to April 26th, 2018, and from April 27th, 2018 to May 10th, 2018.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the record of expenditures are approved. General discussion. We have both remarks by Alderman and general discussion, so I don't know the difference exactly, but discussion now should be general.
Mike.
Yes, Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you. I'll bite on one of them.
All right.
But, Mr. Mayor, I like what you said to the gentleman that we've called Al. I'm very familiar with the gentleman. I know the good work that he has done. He's truly one of our greater assets in the city. He works within that community, and I know sometimes he does a lot of work off the clock, too. He truly is a saint. I agree with 100% that you said, and he deserves the keys to the city at some future point. I mean, for the good work he has done. He really does a lot for that certain segment of the community that is so much in need. So I commend you for mentioning him.
Thank you. Anything else? Anybody else? General discussion? Public comment? If there, well, there are no members of the public present, so I don't, other than Mr. Griffin, CFO, but I don't see anyone who's rising to speak. So the next item is remarks by Alderman. Any remarks by Alderman?
I don't know that I
Alderwoman?
have a remark, but there was some work done on Ash Street. I think
Yes.
that main break,
Yes.
but they haven't come and cleared the street, you know, repave or anything. It's a huge. So I'm wondering, is that supposed to happen soon, or?
I think so, but I can check that out. I mean, obviously, we've got to repave the street, so that was an emergency repair.
Yeah, it was.
The sewer collapsed.
Yeah.
It was a sinkhole,
Yeah.
basically, situation. Obviously, they got to repair the street, but I could find out and let you know what the timing on that is expected to be.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
Anyone else? Any other questions, discussion? If not, Alderman O'Brien.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the meeting of the Finance Committee is adjourned at 8:06 PM.